Welcome to the Rise to Shine podcast with Noelle Custis, where we ignite the spark to discover your favorite self. It is time to get real, ladies. Hello, and welcome back to the Rise to Shine podcast. I'm your host, Noelle Custis, and today's guest is someone whose story is so powerful. Denise is an author who writes with honesty and heart, sharing the real and raw moments of life that so many women walk through, but often don't always talk about. So her book actually shines a light on the messy, beautiful process of navigating life as a caregiver, but also rediscovering who we are when life takes an unexpected turn. So, Denise's words are filled with understanding and truth, and I am so honored to have her here with me today to talk about what it really means to start over, find strength in the hard seasons, and to really be able to turn pain into purpose. I know we talk about that a lot here on this show, and we really dive in with women and their stories. And I'm just really honored that Denise gets to be with us today and share her story with us. So, hello there, Denise, and welcome to the show.
Hi, Noelle. I'm very happy to be here. This is my first podcast, so thank you for having me on your podcast. I really appreciate it.
I know. I'm so glad we connected. And this is, it's so funny because this is how I connect with so many different women. Most of the women that I have on the podcast I have never even met in person, and we have connected either through other groups or just things in common, whether we're networking or we're in coaching containers. Wherever it ends up happening, it is always so beautiful because I feel like the energy is just instant. And we had met in a group of lots of women, and we just started kind of messaging each other on the outskirts and got to learn a little bit about each other. And from there we decided, okay, you need to come on my podcast because I would love for other women to hear your story, because I do think it is so important and it's not one that's talked about enough. And for the audience, you'll see what I mean in just a moment when we start to dive into that. So thank you for agreeing to do your first podcast. We were talking about before we hit record. It's always a little nerve-wracking, but just like I said, take a deep breath, and your story is so beautiful. It's funny how we can be authors and we can write everything out, but then when we actually have to speak it and not in our comfort zone of friends or people we know, it's like, ah.
Right. Or
So I get that. I get it. I get it. But one of the things, well, let's start with this. Before we really dive in, tell us a little bit about yourself so you can share with the audience who you are.
Sure. Like you said, my name's Denise Hoover, and I am in my 50s. My husband and I have been married for 20 years, been together for 28. I have two adult sons. So we retired early. Jeff and I retired early, and we were so excited to pursue different things in our retirement. And then he had a stroke. So that was the whole premise of the book. Writing the
Yeah.
book was what I went through during his recovery of his stroke.
Yeah. And, when I had heard that, I just thought, oh my gosh, these are those things, and myself included in midlife, we start to see life a little bit differently. Our lens changes a little bit more. I'm a mom, so kids are growing up, and we are just a couple years short of being on our own and being in that empty nest stage. And you just think, oh, the time that we retire and the time that we get to kind of start living life for ourselves and we get to, travel, whatever that is. And then we don't really take into consideration that life can take a turn. It is it's something that I think is in the back of our minds, but it's not something we really have a conversation around. And that's why I just felt so excited to have you here, because when we get to be vulnerable and when we get to really talk about this, I think it is so helpful to other women. And I know that we're both really passionate about helping women in midlife. And that is, again, how we connected. So when that moment changed for you, take us back to that time and what was happening in your life and, what was going on, maybe like those hopes and dreams that we were just talking about, and then what ended up occurring.
So Jeff and I retired early in our 50s. We planned on it. We were excited about it. We had about a year into our retirement. We were traveling, just having a good time. It felt like we were dating again. Loved it. We had empty
Yeah.
nests. It was a really good time for us. But we also had been taking care of his parents. We were caregivers to his parents for 10 years. And then his dad passed away. But after we retired, his mom passed away. So honestly, I felt a sense of relief. Like, okay, 10 years, it was a long journey taking care of his parents. And so now it was almost like relief. Like I said, like I wasn't a caregiver anymore. And then 2 months after Jeff's mom passed away, he had a stroke. So
Mm.
you were talking about thinking in the back of your mind, like what our midlife and beyond would be like. And
Mhm.
I had never thought I would have to take care of my husband until I was in my 70s, 80s. And here we were in our 50s, and he had a stroke, and our whole world was turned upside down. My whole world was turned upside down.
I
So
bet. Yeah.
so
I mean, we're in the sandwich generation, right? Where we are taking care of our kids, oftentimes taking care of our parents simultaneously. So I could imagine that once you are in a position where you have some freedom, there's
Mhm.
this excitement and anticipation. And I loved how you said it felt like we were dating again. We were traveling and doing all of these things.
Mhm.
So when this happened, what do you remember about those early days and how it shifted your world? How did that experience change your relationship and all
Oh
of the
my goodness. All of this is in my book
okay.
called
Yep.
Surviving My Husband's Stroke. Um, but my husband completely changed. So he was the strong one in our relationship. He took care of everything, from finances to our travel to just everything in our life, he took care of, which I loved. But
Yeah.
then it all fell on my shoulders. So it was like he couldn't do any of those things again. So not only was I doing the finances, like doing all the planning, doing all the housework, but I was also trying to help him recover from his stroke. So my plate was overflowing. Like it was a hard time. And honestly, that's why I started writing the book. I journal a lot, and I've journaled all my life.
Okay.
It just helps me get my emotions out, get my feelings out, kind of analyze what I'm going through. And something kept telling me, write the book. Because I just kept hearing this. Now, I've always wanted to be an author ever since I was little.
Okay.
But growing up in the 80s, we were told you can do whatever you want, be whatever you want, but you also have to be a good mother and you have to be a good wife. So you have
Yeah.
all this stuff, and you are put in the background. You put yourself in the background, last on the list. Retirement for me was that chance to pursue my passions and my interests.
Mhm.
So I've always wanted to be an author. So when this happened to Jeff and I was journaling, I felt like there's got to be other women out there going through the same thing. I felt so alone. For the first time in my life, I thought I could be a widow.
Mm.
Or never even in my 50s thought about, losing my husband. So I went through all of that. It was a tough time. So that's basically why I wrote the book. If it could help someone that's
Mhm.
going through the same thing, then I've done my job. You know what I mean? That's why I wrote it.
Yeah, no, gosh, so many things that I'm thinking about that are swirling through my mind as you say all of this, because my husband and I are in our 50s. This is our second marriage. So we've been married now coming up on 7 years and together for 10. And it's the same thing. It's like, I found my person and I found someone that takes care of all the things that I, as a single mom, took care of and just despised. Oh gosh,
Really?
I remember being so resentful when I'd have to take out the big garbage cans every Friday, and when it was bills, and I'm stressing financially and I'm thinking, okay, how do I even go about this? Or if something, God forbid, breaks and there's a plumbing problem or an electricity problem and I have to call and I have to handle that, it was just a lot that I wore on my shoulders. And so then here I find this person, and he is truly just such a saint in our lives. And when you talk about this, I just immediately go to that place of, holy cow, what if something happened to him? And I feel like I've seen my friends go through this, not a lot of them, but for instance, I have seen my former mother-in-law, who I'm very, very close to, and she was in the same position, married for years, freedom, just all retired, just having a great time. And my former father-in-law was diagnosed with Parkinson's, and it has rocked their world. And as a family, we're all trying to come around it, but we're all saying the same thing, and it brings it to the forefront of going, oh gosh, I should probably think about this,
Mhm.
because
I don't
it's so easy not
prepare.
to, right?
Yeah, I don't think you can prepare for anything like
No,
this. So it's not.
right.
I think you asked me how our relationship has changed, and Jeff's
Yeah.
personality is completely different than he was before the stroke.
See, that's something too.
Yeah, he was always a strong person. Now he has social anxiety. It's tough. It's tough.
Yeah.
But what I always think of is I love him, and he's the same person I fell in love with. His personality is just a little different.
Yeah.
So
Well, and
that's
that's why I think it's so important, because you're right. No matter what, we can sit and talk about it all day long, but the reality is that life keeps moving, and it moves so fast. And
right.
then before you know it, if something happens like this, you're not ever fully prepared for it.
Mhm.
But what a different dynamic that you're even speaking of is, not only are you not prepared, but things change, not just your responsibilities and becoming an instant caretaker for somebody, but
Mhm.
also learning how to get to know somebody in a different space. That, I just like my father-in-law, he's not that strong, outgoing, playful man anymore. He's more frail. He's a little bit slower. His speech is slower. Sometimes I feel like, he's more checked out, and then sometimes he's completely present. So we are having to get to know somebody on a completely different level. And there's even a grieving process to that. Did you feel
Yep.
like you went through a lot of grief through this process?
Absolutely. One of the chapters in my book is called The Stages of Grief. I went through all of
Mhm.
it. And some of them I go through every once in a while still. The anger comes
Yeah,
back every once in a while. Um, yeah, a lot. The stages of grief. Like I
right.
lost my husband, but he's still alive.
Now, how does he handle that with you? If he's feeling like maybe you're a little frustrated or you're sad or going through these stages of grief, how does that work in your relationship now?
It's tough. It's tough
Okay.
because I like to say he's kind of like a child now, but
Yeah.
not his intelligence. You know what I mean? Just
Right.
his personality, the way he reacts to things is a little bit, did I do something wrong? Did I say something wrong? Which he never would have said that before his stroke.
Right.
um, so it's a matter of getting used to it. I
Yeah.
mean, I took vows to love him forever, and that's what I plan on doing. And it's different. It's different. And that's the
Right.
reason I wrote this book too, is because I say a lot of stuff that people don't say out loud. Like
I love that.
I tell my frustrations, my resentment for this happening, my anger, just everything. I
Yeah.
just let it all out because people need to talk about it. People don't talk about it because you're supposed to be, oh, like I hear a lot of people say, oh, I will do anything I caregive for my mom and I would do anything for her and I love her. Well, it's not all sunshine and roses. you know,
Right.
It's not, it's hard. It is.
Totally. I always say, until you're in it, you
Mhm,
really have no idea. It's
mhm,
very different than caring for your children. When
mhm.
I
Totally.
started helping to take care of my mom and my grandma, and what I see my mom doing to take care of my grandma, I go, oh man, I don't even know how to comprehend that.
Right.
And it is very different. And then, there's, like I said, there's this guilt that my mom feels and that my mother-in-law feels, that just they want to lovingly take care and do all of the things, but there are moments where they're so frustrated in the process. So,
Right.
how did you find, in the midst of all of that, how did you find your footing and be able to kind of figure that out and be able to move in that space?
I don't know.
That's an honest answer. That's okay.
Quite honestly,
Yeah.
no, I know I just kept journaling and I just found my strength. I don't know how. I just kept pushing forward and doing what I needed to do. I, like you, have a background in education, so that
Okay.
helped me a lot with Jeff's recovery.
Hmm.
Um, but I don't know how women who don't have an educational background do it, because there was a
Right.
lot of teaching. Like, he had to learn basic everyday objects, how to say words, how to write letters, like just everything. I just kept pushing forward. I just kept pushing
Yeah.
forward because he kept saying, I just want to recover. I want to recover. And I said, okay, well, let's do this. Um,
Right. So
but
kind of
for my,
is like both of your wills were able to get you just to put one foot in front of the next every day.
yeah.
Yeah.
I,
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I did go through periods where I wanted to quit. I wanted to
Mhm.
escape. I wanted to run away.
Yeah.
It was tough. It was tough.
Yeah.
This happened to me too. Even though, everyone's
Right.
like, how's Jeff doing? How's Jeff doing? Like, I was going through my own stuff and I just kind of didn't really say anything, because that's how we as women we're taught to do. You
Totally.
smile and carry on.
Yeah. Well, so when you were going through this, did you feel like you had support, or did you seek out support groups? What did that look like for you?
Um, I live in the Midwest in a very, very small town. So
Mhm.
if I was going to go to a support group, it was going to be like an hour away. And really, when this first started happening with Jeff, I would not leave him alone. I was too afraid to leave him alone. Like, something was going to happen, or he was going to be gone when I got back, or I just
Right.
didn't want him alone. And then I found a couple online, but to me, if I'm going to go for support, I want it to be person to person.
Yeah.
Um, I have a big family and I have friends, and I just never told anybody what I was going through.
Mhm.
I just always have been a private person. So my journal was my therapy.
I would imagine, because I was just going to say, I'm sure writing became a part of that healing process, just having a place that you could go and let out your feelings and just be able to be so real in that place of writing.
Right.
Yeah. And
And
now, was it you that came up with the idea? Like, was it you that had the feeling of just, I've got to share? I know you mentioned earlier that you thought, this, if it even helped one person, but was anybody else encouraging you, saying, hey, you should write this book, you should put this into a book?
no, well, I never really told anybody.
Oh, okay.
Never. I keep everything inside, and I put it in my journal, and that was it. And but when I started writing, actually coming up with the idea for the book and writing the book, there were a couple friends that I said, hey, what do you think of this? And they're like, that's a great idea, because I don't think anybody talks about that. Because the focus is supposed to be on the person who had the traumatic medical event, not the person who's taking care of them. And really, when you look online and stuff, it's they say get support and they say self-care. Those are the two important things.
Yeah.
Growing up the way we did in the 80s and putting yourself last, that's what I did during his recovery, until I decided I just, was going to crack if I didn't have time to myself. And
Yeah.
writing, actually, a lot of my time too to myself, even though I would wait till he went to sleep or was napping or whatever. And those
Right.
times, that's when I would write.
Yeah. So with that, with your book, what are you hoping women are going to feel when they read your book, especially those that might be in the middle of their own really difficult situation of being a caretaker or experiencing something similar to this?
Well, there's a couple of things. One, I want them to know they're not alone. I felt so alone during the first 6 months or so of recovery. They're not alone. Someone understands what you're going through. And also, it's okay to be mad. It's okay to hate the situation you're in, but you have to decide, do you want to live every day in anger, or do you want to move on and try and have a better life with the current situation, if that makes
Mhm.
sense.
Absolutely makes so much sense. And I'm so glad you said that because I do think that it's so important to allow ourselves to feel what it is that we're feeling because we are going to actually be better off on the other side of that. When we're keeping it all in, it's one thing that I've learned is that we really are, that's where resentment sets in even more
Mhm.
so. I feel like
Right.
that's when we start to feel even more alone. And what's interesting, and you can tell me if you find this with women as well, now that you're, out there kind of talking about your book more and you have it out there. But I find it fascinating, we all think or feel like we're the only ones that are going through it. And then all of a sudden you
Yes.
mention something and everyone's like, yes, me too, but we're so afraid to put it out there because I mean, what do you think it is? Is it, I mean, sometimes I think, is it that we don't want to be a burden to anybody else or that we feel shame around our feelings? What are your thoughts?
I think that's both of those things for sure. I never want to put my problems on anybody else. Um, And like I was talking earlier, like people taking care of their mom might be like, "Oh, I love taking care of my mom. I would do anything." I hated times taking care of at times, taking care of
Yeah.
my husband, and I felt ashamed about it. Like I felt like, "What is wrong with me? I should be happy to be taking care of my husband." But it's a lot. Being a caregiver is a lot.
Did you ever get anyone saying, because I heard someone say this before, that well, you should just be grateful that he's still alive. And that's where you should find your joy,
Yes.
that you get to take care of him.
Yes, and I
Ugh.
can't tell you how many times I wrote that in my journal. I should just be happy just alive. I should just be happy just alive. But when your whole world gets turned upside down and you're taking on a role that you never had before because he took care of everything. Like I never had to be the strong one, the leader of our relationship. Um, I just lost my train of thought.
Talking about just how, for you being grateful that you get to take care of him.
Yeah, so yeah, I felt guilt about that a lot, that, like, I should just be happy he's alive. I should be grateful he's alive. I shouldn't be upset, I shouldn't be angry, but you still go through all those other feelings, and I think you
Right.
have to acknowledge them, whether it's a support group or talking to someone or journaling, you have to get those all out of your head or it'll drive you crazy.
Right. Right. Now, you have also created recently a companion, is that correct? A workbook?
Yes, actually, I'm working on it, I'm hoping to get it
Working on
out by the end of the year. Yeah,
it.
it's
Okay.
a companion workbook. And
Yeah.
basically, what it is, you should have seen my kitchen table after Jeff had a stroke. There were sticky notes and file folders and schedules and calendars. It was just a mess. It was hard for me to keep everything organized. So I
Yeah.
thought I would do this companion workbook for other caregivers to keep everything in one place. So it's got calendars, it's got medication trackers, and it's got towards the end, I put some like journaling prompts, like what are you going through? You got to get your feelings out. You got to get this stuff out of your head. And so you can write it down. I put a little section at the end. My husband had aphasia. So I put a little section in at the end, how to help someone with aphasia. Even though I'm not a doctor or a therapist or
Right.
anything, I'm just like, these are my suggestions. So I'm almost done with it. I'm hoping, by the end of the year, it'll be out.
I love that. I just feel, again, it's another tool. I feel like your book is a book that is going to give women peace in knowing that they're not alone and being able to maybe navigate some of those feelings and just all of the things that you go through when your world is literally turned upside down. But I love the idea of this workbook and, having a tool that they can actually plug into because I can only imagine. I mean, I am sure that, just trying to figure it all out. And I think too, being a teacher, we just are these people that we love to do the research and we're like, where
Right.
can we find this? What can we do? How do we help? And we're trying to learn all the ways ourselves. I think that teachers are
Right.
just lifelong learners and that's who we are. But what a beautiful resource that somebody could go, gosh, I could have that right off the bat. I mean, imagine if you had something like
Mhm.
right off the bat, and this is why we do what we do. We find a problem and we solve it. And that is what you have done. And I am just so grateful for that because it's certainly something that I feel like there are not a lot of things out there besides, like you said, saying, oh, you should get in with the, support group or whatever. But this is something beautiful that people can recommend to women that are going through this. Now, if someone finds themselves in this situation and suddenly this happens, what's a piece of advice or comfort that you'd offer to a woman?
Wow. Let me think. I guess you need to remember that this person, your husband, is
Mhm.
still there. He's
Yeah,
just changed. You still love him.
yeah,
He's just changed, and you have to adapt to who he is now.
yeah. I think that's so important. And I'm thinking there's probably been a lot of things that you have learned about yourself, but could you just share with us what you've learned about yourself as a woman through all of this?
I learned that I am stronger than I ever thought I was. I feel like I didn't have to be strong because Jeff was strong for me.
Yeah.
Um, I learned I can be very resourceful and very demanding, which I'm not a demanding person.
Well, I would imagine you've evolved and changed too. You're not the same person that you were either, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, but when I'm advocating for my husband or my
Mhm.
children, it's like, don't poke mama bear because
Right.
I can be demanding and strong if I need to be.
That's right. Well,
Yeah,
and I love that too because as a caregiver, that's one thing I've learned as well that I've watched other people that are in this situation experience is not only are you a caregiver, but you also do have to become their biggest advocates because they're not always able to advocate for themselves.
absolutely.
Yeah, just so I mean, it really does just kind of humble us to just go, no, we may not be fully prepared for a situation like this. Although I do say, have those hard conversations because I do think they're important and looking at it from a lens that I haven't specifically gone through it yet, but I'm watching others that I love go through it is also teaching me and forcing my husband and I to have some of those trickier conversations
Right.
that in midlife are not always our favorite because we do, and it's not to say we can't still dream and do all the things, go out and do all of the things. I think again it helps you to also see the perspective of time
Yeah,
and that every day is a precious gift. As a matter of fact, it's so interesting because just as I say that, I go, yesterday, now I whenever this is on air, it will obviously won't be yesterday, but for me, yesterday, my son was on his way to school and he's 16 years old and got in his first car accident. And it was such a quick reminder, when I got the phone call and he says, Mom, I've been in an accident. And he was so just upset. And it was such a shock for him. Man, your heart just drops. And it's in those moments that you realize, oh my gosh, things can change in the blink of an eye.
absolutely.
And yeah, we just take things. I mean, again, life is going and you're just lifing and you don't
Mhm.
stop to think about those things until something happens.
Right.
And so that's why I think it's important to have those hard conversations, when you're able to, but also to just enjoy the time that you have together. And I love that there are women out here, men too, that are talking about these things, that are writing the books, going on podcasts. I just think the more that it's out there, the more we don't feel so isolated and alone through the process, and I think that really is key when we're not feeling so alone in it.
Yeah, I agree. We have to stick together and we have to
Yeah.
talk about these things because I don't know that our parents ever did. I don't know that my mom or her friends ever
Right.
talked about this stuff. I'm
I
not
don't
sure.
recall it either. I do feel like it's so funny because we were just saying this in a previous conversation today. I was talking to another lady and we were saying how this generation, our generation, I feel like is that first generation that are really talking about things and doing life a little differently than what past generations have done, that we get to midlife and we're not just done. There's a
Right,
purpose and a calling on our life. And I feel like this is definitely part of your purpose. Who would have known? We never know. Sometimes it's through those hardships and those challenges that we go through that get us to what we're going to do. Like you said, I always wanted to be an author, but I am
Mhm.
probably guessing it wasn't to write a book like this.
No, no. Matter of
Right?
fact, I told my sister, I said, I don't want to be the poster child for a caregiver for a stroke survivor.
Oh, I
That's not
love.
what I want to be. That's not what I
Yeah.
want. I
So
did child for caregivers, but something has led me down this path, and this is the direction I'm going. I still want to work with midlife women, but I feel like I'm not done with this path yet. I still have to do the audiobook, but workbook, audiobook, but I'm a one person show here, so it just
and you
takes
know
me.
what? Well, exactly. And here's the thing. Think of all the things that you're learning through this process to where, and gosh, I'm so glad that we got to this part of the conversation because just as you said, I don't want to necessarily be the poster child for being the caregiver, person, but this is going to be your launching pad. And this is going to help so many people, but it's also going to thrust you into something more. And I wouldn't be surprised if you have another book in you and it'll probably be a whole different direction.
I have several more books in me, but
See, I love that. I love that. And I think those are the things that we get to smile about and we get to lean into. And through all of this, you have become so resilient and you really been able to define that inner strength in you to be able to continue to pursue your dreams. And sometimes our dreams change, like they might be from yes, I want to be an author, but then it ends up taking a whole new path, which I think is so beautiful. So I love that. And I am so grateful. I definitely want to make sure that we have in the show notes all of the ways that they can connect with you and that also they can also get their hands on your book and your future workbook and all of the other works that you have in store for you as well and just be in your world. So we'll make sure to have that in your store in your notes, but I was curious. Now this is a part that I didn't tell you about and it wasn't on purpose, I promise you. So I don't want to scare you being that this is your very first podcast. But we do have a fun little thing that we do here, and it's called our Sip and Spark series. And we just basically do some quick fire questions. I promise they're easy. They're not anything you have to really think about, but it's just a fun way to get to know you outside of what we've discussed today. Would you be willing to do that today?
sure. Let's
Awesome.
have it.
Okay.
Let's have it.
Yes, just like I said, this just the first thing that comes to mind. So we'll have some fun with this. So the first question is just coffee or tea or something else entirely.
Tea. I like chai.
All right, all right, I love it. Do you have a favorite book or author that has inspired you?
Mel Robbins really, really inspires me for everything. She's the one that got the spark going for me to start a website, but then Jeff had a stroke, so I never went through with that website. But I follow her religiously. I love her. She's got great advice.
Yeah, me too. She is definitely, it's so funny because I love asking that question because I will often get introduced to a book or an author or a podcast that I have not heard of yet, but I will tell you, hands down, I would say 7 out of 10 times Mel Robbins' name comes up in the podcast
I
for
love
this.
her.
She
She's
is
just
she's
real.
doing something really fantastic.
Mhm.
Definitely. Okay, so if you could escape anywhere right now for a reset, where would you go?
Somewhere on a beach. Warm,
Yes.
sunny on the beach.
I'm right there with you. Maybe we could go
Mm.
together sometime. We need to have like an author's retreat or
Oh,
something, and we can all be on a beach somewhere. I would love that.
yeah.
And then, last question, what instantly lifts your spirits?
My granddaughter, she's
Oh,
3.
oh,
She's 3 and I just love her. I call her sweet and sassy because she is sweet and sassy.
oh my gosh, I love that. Now, does she live close to where you are?
She does. She's
Oh,
about a half hour away. So yeah, I get to see her often. Her name's Callie Joe, and I just
oh,
love her. Little Miss
I
Callie Joe.
I love it. Oh my gosh, that is so adorable. I can't wait. I mean, I always say my oldest is 23. So can I wait? Yes, of course.
Mhm.
However, I will say I cannot wait for the day. I hope I get to be blessed with some grandchildren because I just, every time I see babies or my friends are becoming grandmas, I'm like, oh, I can't wait.
Well, I had 2 boys, so now I have my girl. So we go shopping,
Oh.
we bake together, and all the stuff the boys don't like to do.
Oh, that makes it even more special. That is so
I
fun.
love
Well, Denise, thank you so much for sharing your story and just your wisdom and your heart today. You really have just reminded us that even when life changes in an instant, it can also awaken something really powerful inside of us. And you have really just so much strength. And I love that. And I love that you have been able to, just be on the other side of the initial part of all of it and just really be here as a teacher. I guess once a teacher, always a teacher. So,
it. True.
but again, we will make sure that we have everyone connected to you. And I just know that this conversation is going to bring a lot of comfort and I hope encouragement to everyone who listens. And just want to say thank you, friends, for joining us today. Keep rising, keep shining, and know that the best day is right here waiting for you. Thanks, Denise. Bye,
Thanks
everybody.
for having me. Bye.
Thanks for joining me here today. Your presence means the world to me. If you enjoyed what you heard, please consider leaving a rating and review, and don't forget to follow or subscribe so you never miss an episode. Head to the show notes and let's connect. Rise to Shine Co. is ready to support you in coaching, collaboration, life tips, or even a coffee chat. Until next time, keep shining, my friends.